Hello, everyone. Welcome to Steve's View. History was made in Japan this week. For the first time ever, the country known for its political conservatism and deep-rooted traditions has chosen a woman to lead. Sanae Takaichi, now set to become Japan's first female prime minister. It's a stunning moment, not just for Japan, but for the entire Asia-Pacific region. And it's already raising big questions. Can Takaichi really change Japan? Can she unite her divided party, manage its fragile economy, and navigate Japan's tricky position between the US, China, and Taiwan? Today, I want to take a closer look at how she won, what challenges she now faces, and why her leadership could reshape Japan's role in the world. So, let's break this down step by step. Takaichi's rise was anything but expected until the final hours of the Liberal Democratic Party (LDP) leadership election. Every major poll and mainstream outlet in Japan predicted a landslide victory for her rival, Shinjiro Koizumi, son of a former prime minister, telegenic, polished, and favored by the media. But when the ballots were opened, the results flipped. Takaichi pulled off a come-from-behind victory, not only winning the second round decisively, but also outperforming expectations among LDP lawmakers. That shock alone tells us something fundamental has changed in Japanese politics. It revealed how out of touch the traditional media has become with conservative voters. So what exactly drove her unexpected win? 1. The conservative comeback, a return to the party's roots. Takaichi's central message was simple. Let's return to the founding spirit of the Liberal Democratic Party. She campaigned on reviving Japan's traditional conservative values, calling for national pride, cultural preservation, and stronger defense. This resonated deeply with the LDP's older, more traditional voter base, many of whom had grown frustrated with what they saw as the party's drift toward centrist compromise and bureaucratic stagnation. She positioned herself, deliberately, as a Japanese conservative in the mold of Margaret Thatcher, even echoing Thatcher's famous phrase, "The lady's not for turning." This return to conservatism wasn't just about ideology, it was strategic. In a global political environment increasingly defined by identity and populism, Takaichi understood that standing firm on national pride could rally the LDP's base, much like Trump re-energized Republicans in 2016. In her speeches, she spoke passionately about restoring warrior spirit, promoting respect for Japan's traditions, and even protecting sacred cultural symbols, like the deer in her hometown of Nara, which she said had been mistreated by rude foreign tourists. That might sound small, but symbolically, it played big. To many Japanese conservatives, it captured something deeper, a desire to defend Japan's identity amid globalization and immigration. So her message, "Protect Japan from cultural erosion," was not just nostalgic. It was emotional, and it worked. 2. The art of avoiding controversy, political realism in action. In her previous campaigns, Takaichi's outspoken stances had cost her dearly. She openly said she wanted to visit the Yasukuni Shrine, which honors Japan's war dead, including some convicted war criminals. In Japan, that's divisive enough, but abroad, especially in China and South Korea, it's explosive. Last time, that position alienated moderate LDP lawmakers and scared off swing voters. This time, she played it differently. She didn't renounce her beliefs, she just stopped talking about them. When asked about visiting Yasukuni, she said, "It's an important matter, but I won't comment further." Same thing on tax cuts, another hot issue. She had long pushed for lower taxes, a classic conservative move, but one that would have directly contradicted Taro Aso, the LDP's elder statesman who had overseen previous tax hikes as finance minister. By softening her tone and leaving some of those topics vague, Takaichi managed to build a bridge between the party's ideological hardliners and its cautious establishment wing. And that, in Japanese politics, is no small feat. She showed the kind of flexible pragmatism that's often missing in Western political debates. While many outsiders imagine Japan as hyper-consensus-driven, the LDP is actually full of factional rivalries. Takaichi didn't win by shouting louder. She won by knowing when to stay quiet. That's political realism at its finest. 3. Competence and professionalism, the scholar in politics. The third reason is one that's easy to overlook, but maybe the most decisive: Takaichi's competence. She's not a celebrity politician. She's not charismatic in the American sense. In fact, many describe her as stiff, even boring, but behind that formality is a policy wonk of rare discipline. For over 30 years in Parliament, she built a reputation as someone who actually reads every policy draft, studies economic reports line by line, and writes her own blog posts like a bureaucrat filing memos. She's been called a perfectionist, a workaholic, even robotic. But in a system where many politicians rely on bureaucrats to think for them, her mastery of detail gave her credible. She's the kind of politician who goes home after meetings and studies, not the type who networks over drinks or cuts backroom deals. And that authenticity, even if a little socially awkward, made her seem trustworthy at a time when voters are fed up with spin. Her opponent, Shinjiro Koizumi, by contrast, relied on charm and vague slogans like "Let's stand with the people." That kind of feel-good talk fell flat when compared to Takaichi's clear command of facts. So, to sum up, she won because she offered conviction, control, and competence, the same three qualities that once made Thatcher and Merkel household names. But winning an election is one thing. Governing Japan in this moment is something else entirely. Takaichi faces 3 enormous tests: party unity, foreign policy, and the economy. But I'd go further and say, each of these is also a test of whether Japan can modernize without losing itself. Challenge 1: holding her party together. Here's the political reality. Takaichi may have won the leadership vote, but nearly half of her own party didn't want her to. Many of the LDP's biggest names, including former prime ministers like Yoshihide Suga, Fumio Kishida, and Shigeru Ishiba, actively opposed her. She's not part of any major faction, and she doesn't have a big patron like Abe once did. In Japan's faction-driven politics, that makes her an outsider, even at the top. So, her first challenge is to unify a party that doesn't fully trust her. She's already trying to reach out, reportedly writing handwritten letters to every LDP lawmaker, asking for support. That kind of personal gesture might sound small, but in Japan, sincerity still carries weight. Still, letters only go so far. The LDP is a machine of old loyalties and power brokers, and some are already plotting her downfall. She'll need to prove that she's not just a symbol of change, but a capable operator who can balance competing interests, something Abe mastered, but few others could. If she fails here, her government could collapse in months. If she succeeds, she might redefine what leadership looks like in Japan. Challenge 2: foreign policy and diplomacy. Takaichi's foreign policy stance is one of her strongest and riskiest traits. She's unapologetically hawkish. She believes Japan must rearm, stand firm against China, and play a bigger role in defending democracy in Asia. She's also deeply supportive of Taiwan, calling it a vital friend of Japan, and saying that peace in the Taiwan Strait is critical to Japan's own security. From a U.S. perspective, that sounds great. Finally, a Japanese leader who's not afraid to speak up about China. But there's a catch. Her toughness could isolate Japan diplomatically. Unlike Abe, who balanced firm security policies with personal diplomacy, Takaichi doesn't yet have deep experience dealing with world leaders. Her bluntness might play well at home, but it could create friction abroad, especially if she pushes Tokyo closer to Washington at the expense of relations with Beijing or Seoul. If she mishandles relations with China, Japan could face economic retaliation. And given how reliant Japan still is on Chinese trade, that's no small matter. And there's another dynamic, the Trump factor. President Trump, who's visiting Japan later this month, has long pushed for Japan to shoulder more of its own defense burden. Takaichi agrees, but she might find herself caught between American expectations and Japanese caution. That's a delicate dance, and one misstep could have major consequences for regional stability. Challenge 3, the economy. This is the one that will define her premiership. Japan's economy has been stagnant for decades. Wages are flat, prices are rising, and Japan's per capita GDP just fell below Taiwan's. Takaichi says she'll fight inflation and make Japan strong again. A line that sounds a bit Trumpian, intentionally or not. But slogans won't fix structural problems. She's promised tax cuts and deregulation, but those require confronting Japan's powerful bureaucracy, the same system that has resisted reform for 30 years. And even if she manages to pass reforms, ordinary voters care more about daily costs, pensions, and job security than abstract macroeconomics. I believe her professionalism and intellect will win public trust, but Japanese voters, like Americans, vote with their wallets. If prices rise faster than wages, no amount of competence will save her government. Beyond domestic politics, Takaichi's victory symbolizes something deeper, maybe even historic. It marks the end of Japan's post-war political comfort zone. For decades, Japan's leaders have avoided bold statements on defense, security, and identity. Takaichi represents a break from that, a willingness to say Japan must stand up for itself. That's powerful, but it's also dangerous if handled without care. Her belief in rearming Japan and speaking out for Taiwan aligns with U.S. strategic interests, but could escalate tensions with China at a time when the region desperately needs stability. As a conservative woman leading a male-dominated political world, she's often compared to Margaret Thatcher, tough, disciplined, unapologetically nationalist. But Japan in 2025 isn't Britain in the 1980s. Thatcher faced unions and inflation. Takaichi faces an aging population, a fragile economy, and a volatile geopolitical neighborhood. Her success will depend on how well she balances firmness with flexibility, strength with subtlety. Her victory is inspiring. Her test will be execution. So, can Japan's first female prime minister really change Japan? Honestly, maybe, but not alone. If she can rebuild trust in government, stabilize the economy, and strengthen alliances without sparking new conflicts, she could leave a legacy as transformative as Thatcher's. If she stumbles, she could become another short-lived prime minister in Japan's revolving door history. Either way, her rise marks a new chapter, not just for Japan, but for Asia's entire balance of power. Because when Japan moves, the whole region watches. And this time, the person leading that movement, for the first time ever, is a woman. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit like, share, and subscribe. And let me know in the comments, do you think Sanae Takaichi can succeed where so many before her have failed? Or is Japan's system too rigid for even its first female prime minister to truly change?